ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Mundaka Upanishad. Today we will take verses 7, 8 and 9, three verses or three mantras. We saw that this Upanishad started with a question from Sonak Rishi to Angira Rishi that if there is one single thing which is known, then whole world is known. What is that thing which is known, then everything else is known? So this was a very, very profound question. And then we saw the Angira Rishi has been explaining. He explained Paravidya and Aparavidya. And then he explained the Supreme, the Brahman. And one full mantra was devoted to him, in which he explained that the Supreme is Adrashyam, Agrahyam, then he is Nityam. So he starts with the negatives and then goes to the positives. And that is where we ended in our last session. Now today, we are going to start a very fascinating subject, which even the science is deeply interested. That what is the origin of this universe? How this universe came into being? And if somebody made this universe, who made that person who made it? So if we say that, how this whole process started, this question remains one of the fundamental curiosity of human mind till date. So today the Angira Rishi is starting with three examples, which are very well quoted examples all over the world, that how this world was created by the Supreme. Because normally if you look at Bible, then they say that the God created this world, so God is separate, the world is separate. Like we say that Kumar created this matka, so the Kumar is separate, the instrument with which he creates is separate, and the matka is separate. So these are 3-4 things involved there. The Kumar is involved, the Chak is involved, the Mitti is involved, and finally the matka is involved. But here, the Upanishad is saying that none of these things are needed. Only one single entity is enough to create everything. And they give very fantastic examples to explain it. So there are three examples which have been given here. And we will start with those three. This is a mantra 7 of Mundak, the first part. Now it says that the first example is that of Makdi. जिस प्रकार मकड़ी अपने जाले को बनाती है और निगल जाती है, that is the first example. That this web created, it is not, the Makdi is not taking any help from outside world. The entire material is coming from its own body. And that material is converted into that net, jal. And then again that same Makdi takes it back. So both the Udbhav and Vilay of this universe is from that Brahman. And Brahma creates this entire universe from the material coming out of its own self. And then it takes it back into itself when the time of pralaya comes, the time of total dissolution comes. So the evolution and dissolution both happens within what we call the body of the Brahma. There is no third factor involved there, not even the second factor. And that is the foundation of Advait. There is nothing else but one single entity which has created this whole universe and which also dissolved this whole universe into its own body. So this is the first example in which Rishi Angira is trying to explain that no third element is involved anywhere. It is all coming out of the body of the Supreme, goes back into the body of the Supreme. The whole net of this universe is created from that. And when it is dissolved into him. So basically meaning that the whole universe is in fact a reflection of the Supreme. Now, in this, the question may arise that the net has been created, but not, the variety of life forces. Life forces, how do they come into being? Because in this universe, we see, according to our Shastras, there are 8.4 million different life forces. And now science is coming to that figure, closer to that figure. They also believe that if we put together all forms of life, that may add up to 8.4 million. So this example does not explain those variations of life forces, how they came into being. So Rishi Angira is giving another example which explains this. The other example is that पृथ्वी में नाना प्रकार की औषधियां उत्पन्न होती हैं. That is one single earth. And out of that earth, you see all variations. You have a lemon tree, you have a mango tree, you have a neem tree, you have babul tree, and you have guava tree, you have a banyan tree, you have all kinds of, what you call herbs, shrubs. All those things are there. If you go to a jungle, you will find thousands of different variations of life. And those are depiction of life from inanimate. Because the earth we consider, though it is not strictly inanimate, but we consider it is achal, inanimate. And from that inanimate body comes life forces, all the variations of different variety of, what we call vegetation come into being. So this is another example to tell the world, to explain to us that from one single entity, all variations of life can come into being. Like we see the variations of a vast variety of vegetation coming from the same earth. So this is another example explaining how one single Brahma or one single entity called Brahma gives rise to all forms of life in this earth, on this earth. Then he explains another example. He gives another example, which is our own body. We see our own body. On the body, we see so many, millions of hair coming out of the body, nails coming out of the body. And from animate body, inanimate things coming out. Nails and hair are inanimate. We can cut them. From the earth, animate vegetation coming out. Here from the animate body, inanimate hair and nails coming out. So this example tells us, these three examples tell us that the Brahma alone can create all variations possible on this earth. All the things which are inanimate can come out of the animate body. The things which are looking inanimate, they can come out of the animate body. So the difference between animate and inanimate is not important, because everything is animate in terms of Vedic parlance, because the Vedic parlance divides the consciousness into what we call mineral regime, vegetable regime, animal regime, human regime, and the supreme. So there are five different variations of the consciousness. It is the supreme, which is everywhere. Then the lowest variation, or the consciousness exists in mineral regime in the lowest form. Then in vegetable regime, slightly higher form. Then in animal regime, even higher. And in the human regime, the highest form. The humans can think, they have a mind, they have well developed intellect, so that's the highest form of consciousness. So these three examples tell us that no second element is involved in creation. Now this goes slightly at variance with Sankhya. The Sankhya system tells us there are two elements, that is the animate, the Chaitanya, that is the supreme Brahman, and Prakriti. But even in Sankhya, the Prakriti comes out of the Brahman. This is what we discussed in detail when we were discussing on Bhagavad Gita. And at that time, we made a chart how this universe had come into being. Now, this will be explained in a different form in this Upanishad in the next two mantras. But at that time, we saw that there was Avyakt, known manifest, which is the Supreme. And then from there came the Mahat Tattva, first autumn of all autumns. And from Mahat Tattva came Ahankar, ego. And from ego, next, element which came into being, because it becomes from subtle to gross and gross and gross and gross. So from there, they came five tanmatras. That is, the sense of sound, the sense of touch, the sense of sight, the sense of speech. The tanmatras came into being. And those tanmatras actually gave to the gross elements, birth to the gross element. For example, the tanmatra of sound, shabd, gave birth to Akash. The tanmatra of touch gave birth to Vayu. The sense of touch gave birth to Vayu. And the sense of sight gave birth to the sun and the moon, whatever it gives us the sight in this universe. The gross elements, the fire, the fundamental is fire. And then the sense of taste gave birth to water. So this is how the explanation was discussed when we were talking about Bhagavad Gita in the a few months ago. But now this Upanishad begins with the fact that it says that there's only one single Advait power, which is called Brahma, which is called the Supreme. That power alone gave birth to this entire universe and all the variations that exist today in this universe. And for explaining them, because we cannot understand this without proper example, they have given three wonderful examples. The first example is that of Makdi, how the Makdi creates a net around itself using its own material and then takes it back into its own body. That is the evolution and dissolution of the universe. That is one example. The second example is that of the earth giving birth to millions of different variations of vegetation, and then they all dissolve into the same earth. And you go to the jungle, we see all those trees and herbs and shrubs, they all dissolve into the earth and they come back again in the form of vegetation. And the third example we see in our own body, we have Actually, yes, we have in our own body, we see our body is animate. From this body comes millions of, hair. We also get nails from the animate body. So many things come out. And just 1 second, my phone. Sorry, my phone was ringing, so I had to put it off now. So this is a fantastic explanation and based on the practical example which we can easily understand. Now the verse number or the mantra number 8. Now this mantra gives us the what you call the various steps involved in the creation of this universe. The various steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How, like for example, you manufacture a fabric. What are the steps? You grow the kapas, the cotton, and then you take the cotton to a spinning mill, then you make a thread, then you weave the thread, then you make the fabric, then you use various colors and dyes to give it a proper shape, and then it becomes a fabric. So this is how this mantra is explaining. Now we have to look at each one of them. Tapsa chiyate Brahma. Tapsa. That's the first step. That Brahma entered into tap. He swelled, the Brahma grew, because the word Briha is the root of Brahma. Briha means something which can grow infinitely. So Brahma grew in size. The growth can be infinite because of the tap. Now tap is basically for the Brahma, in the context of the Brahma, tap is the resolve, the sankalp, the resolve he takes to do something. So if he takes a resolve to create this universe, that is the tap. And that tap makes him grow infinitely. And that is what here chiyate means the growth, infinite growth, swelling. So the Brahma decided or resolved, took a sankalp that I should do something, I should create a universe. And that sankalp, that resolve, resulted into infinite expansion. That is the Briha. Briha root in Sanskrit means the thing which can expand infinitely. And the Brahma comes from that root. So that is tapsa chiyate Brahma. That because of the tap, the Brahma swelled or expanded infinitely. So that was the first step which happened in the process of creation. How the universe was created, the first step was that one single force, which is the Brahma, it expanded itself through resolution, through resolve, through sankalp. So that's the first step in creation of the universe. Then second step, tato annam abhijayate. Now, from that tap, the anna was created. Now, anna is not exactly not the same meaning as we normally understand. Anna here is a very different meaning. It is my interpretation of this. Anna is basically here all the 5 gross elements which came into being, because from the Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal and Prithvi, these 5 elements put together give birth to Anna. The Anna requires space to grow. It requires air for the what we call, the process of growth requires air. The it also requires the sunlight photosynthesis process. So that is the fire. Then it requires water in that process. And then it requires earth to stand on. So the Anna basically can be grown only with the help of these five gross elements, Panch Tattva. So here it is implied that the Anna came from the Tap. It means that the five gross elements came into being simultaneously. So the Prakriti, what we call Mool Prakriti, came into being. So from the Tap, from that expansion of the Supreme, from his resolve, the Prakriti came into being. And the Prakriti had these five gross elements, and that is what is referred to here, Tato Annam Abhijayate. Then Annato Prano Mana Satyam Loka. Now from Anna, Pran came into being. That is the third step. The first step is Tap, second step is Anna, third step is Pran. Now, this is also what we analyze when we look at the sheaths on the body. We first say Annamaya Kos, then we say Pranamaya Kos, then we say Manomaya Kos, then we say Vijnanamaya Kos, and then we say Anandamaya Kos. Those five sheaths. Here exactly the same, order. So the first order, when you expand, it creates space. And then came those other elements into being. And then Pran. Pran is basically the vibration, the force which vibrates and creates movement. And because of the vibration come into being. For example, if we remain without food for several days, then the body movement will decline considerably, and even it can lead to death. The pranic energy is sustained by Anna. All the movement which happens, the pranic energy has, as we discussed earlier, there are five variations of prana in the human body. The Mukhya Pran, which is linked with our breathing system. Then the Saman Pran, which takes the food inside and helps in the digestive process. The Apan, which takes the waste out of the body. Then we have the Vyan Pran, which is taking the energy from the heart to each and every particle of the body. All the, this Vyan Pran is spread in billions of veins all around the body. In fact, the Prasnopanishad explains it very clearly. We will discuss that when we talk about Prasnopanishad. And then the Udan Pran, which takes the soul and the remaining part of our mind and senses at the time for death. So that pranic energy takes its shape from Anna, from the food we eat, from the energy we take in our body. And that energy, no, not the energy, sorry, the food we take and the food create that energy. And that energy is called pranic energy. And that pranic energy circulates into this body, into this prakriti, because body is made of mool prakriti. Body is made of those five gross elements. In this body, we have the body occupies the space. Then it has, the element of air. It has the element of fire. It has the element of water. It has the element of earth. These five elements. That's why we say at the time of death, the body is returning back to those gross five elements. So the body is representative of those gross five elements, which are actually also representing Anna, because Anna is the foundation of our body. When we eat Anna, then only we are able to reproduce. And the child who has been reproduced also requires un to sustain himself or herself. So this is the process. So the third, you know, uh, layer in this order is the pranic energy which comes into being. Then from the pranic energy, the mind, man, it says mana satyam loka. Then comes loka. Mana satyam loka. So the mind comes, then satya comes, then loka comes, then karma comes. This is the order. Tapsa, then an, pran, man, satya, lok, karma, amrit. This is the order which has been explained in this mantra. So now we go to the third element, that is satya, or rather, sorry, man, the fourth element for man. Now man is, the body is gross, it is visible, tangible, we can touch it. We can also feel the senses, but mind we cannot touch. It's very subtle. But in Vedic parlance, mind is also gross. It is, though it is subtle, but it is gross. It is not like non-manifest, not like avyakt. It is vyakt. So it has been manifested. Once the pranic energy comes into being, then the mind takes shape. Mind and intellect both come into existence. When the child is in the womb of mother, the mind and intellect do not come into existence. They come into existence after the birth. So this is the next process, next order in the process of evolution of life on this in this universe. So the man comes into being. This is the same order as we have, pranamaya kosa and then manomaya kosa. Then satyam. Now this word satyam has been interpreted by different people in different ways. But my understanding of this is that satyam actually represents the reality which exists in this universe. It is the combination of the consciousness and the, matter and consciousness. They have come into being. The species are created with the combination of the two. Like I am created, my body is created from the matter, which is the five gross elements. And my life force comes from, the supreme, the consciousness. And that combination brings me into being in this universe. So that is the truth. That is the sense. So this is how I look at it, that the truth of our existence is realized by the mind and intellect once these steps have already happened. So the first step, tapsa, is, enlarging. The Supreme enlarges himself in the form of this universe. And then anna, that other four elements come into being. And then pranic energy comes into being. Then mind and intellect come into being. And then satyam, that is the truth of our existence, can be realized with mind and intellect by realizing that the gross element, the material element, and the consciousness, the chaitanya, they have come into, they come together and create this universe. And then the lokas are created. Lokas are, we can call them different universes or, whatever, because there are different versions of this, but basically we believe that the life exists in different forms in different universes. And from loka means there is a mool prakriti, that is all the five gross elements. Then there are variety of life forces which have come, all the different variations of life have come into being there. They exist, the species of life exist, and they interact with each other, and therefore the karma, the actions happen. The actions take place. Actions means all these things which are happening on this universe, variety of things which we do, the animals do, the plants do, the interaction, what we call ecosystem, interaction with each other. the life forces and the plant regime and the mineral regime, all these regimes, they interact and, they vibrate on this universe. That is called Karmsu. And Karmsu specifically reference to human being because human being has higher level of consciousness. So the person can do use mind and intellect both to decide the karma, to decide what to do and what not to do. Because the other lower species like animals are driven by basically two, three desires, that is hunger, sex, and sleep. These are the three prominent desires which dominate their life. But in our case, many more desires come into being because of the combination of mind and intellect. So the karms happen. We create factories and we create missiles and we create aircrafts and we create submarines and we create cities and we create houses and all kinds of things we do. All these karms happen. And then from karms, Amrit comes into being. Now, this is something I can't say that I fully understand it, but basically, Amritam here means the outcome of the karma. The result of the karma takes place. And these results then again create a new world. Because if the seed is created, obviously it fructifies when the right conditions come into being. So the seed is created in the form of the outcomes. So the results can be positive, it can be negative, it can bring happiness, it can bring unhappiness, but the action does bring outcomes. And that those outcomes are responsible for birth, rebirth, and recreation of this universe. So this is the process which has been explained in one single mantra in two sentences. How this universe comes into being. Tapsa is the first one, the tap. Then comes an along with the mool prakriti. Then comes pranic energy, pran. Then comes man. Then comes satyam. Then comes lokaj. Then comes action karm. And then comes amritam, the outcome. So this is the process the universe has been created. We saw this was also partially explained in Bhagavad Gita. We saw it in a different versions, how the avyakt led to what we call Mahat Tattva, and Mahat Tattva led to Ahankar, and Ahankar to the five tanmatras, that is Shabd, Spars, Roop, Ras, and Gandh, and those five tanmatras led to the five gross elements, that is Akash, Vayu, and Agni, Jal, and Prithvi. So this is how this whole universe came into being. But here, this mantra explains beyond that. It goes beyond the Mool Prakriti. Then it goes to the pranic energy. It goes to the mind and intellect. It goes to the Satyam. Satyam means how this whole process works in reality, the order of the universe, how the combination of the Chetan and Mool Prakriti creates different species and how they come into being. And then the lokas are created. And then they, perform their action, their interaction, the so-called ecosystem and the activities, and then the outcome of that. So this is how this verse is, or this mantra is explaining in brief the entire process of the creation. So the creator and creation, the Srishti and Srishta are the same. That is our concept. It is not the Christian or Western or the other concepts in Semitic religions where the Srishta is different and Srishti is different. Here in this process, in the first mantra, they explain that the Srishta itself brings all the material, all the forces. The Srishti is part of the Srishta, and that has been explained in what we call, the dance of Shiva. Because there is no dance without the dancer. The dance and dancer, they go together. They cannot be separated. So the universe cannot be separated from the Supreme. The universe and the Supreme, they exist together, and this is the process in which they live. So this is these two mantras, they explain the whole process. Look at the brevity and the vastness of knowledge given in those two small mantras. And then we come to the last mantra of, the first part of first Mundak of Mundaka Upanishad. In this, Ye Sarvagya, Sarva Vidyasya, Jnanmayam Tapah. Now, you remember that the question was that what is that by knowing that one thing we know the entire universe? So this is what the Rishi Angira is explaining to him, that if you know that one single thing, then everything is known. So that one single thing is that Brahm, how the Brahm, expands itself into this whole universe. And what is that process? First he described the Brahm, and then the process, whole process. And now he's saying that he is Sarvagya. Sarvid means he's omniscient. He knows everything. Sarvagya and Sarvid, the two words have been used, means he knows everything about everything. That some people may ask you that, yes, he knows about me, but he also knows about each and every part of my body, each and every particle of my body, each and every hair on my body, because he is there. He is part and particle of that. So he is omniscient, Sarvagya Sarvvid, Jnanmayam. He has all the knowledge. Everything is there. That tap has been, his resolve is basically to expand this knowledge everywhere. And that is called Brahm. That is what? Tasmat etat Brahm. And he appears in different names and roops. All the name, Nam Roop Mantram Chajayate. All the names and roops are coming out of him. The whole universe, whatever names and roops we see, the forms and names we see, they come out of him. He is omniscient, he is omnipresent, he is omnipotent, and whatever names and forms come out of, and we see in this universe, they all come out of him. So this is where this the first part of first Mundak of Mundaka Upanishad concludes. So with this, you can see in 9 mantras, the vast essence of this universe has been explained. We could see that perhaps everything which we need to know has been already explained in these 9 mantras. The look at the power of language, the power of expression. And that is why Sanskrit is important, because Sanskrit is the only language which can actually express things in so much depth which no other language can do. We are talking about 90 root of one particular root because of the 10 tenses and 9 forms in one tense. So each root has 90 forms. Each noun has 24 forms. Because of that versatility of language, these mantras could explain the in-depth knowledge with precision in a few words. So with these, the first part of first Mundak comes to an end. Thank you so much, and thanks for your patience and listening, and we shall continue on the second part next week.